Weight loss injections and GLP-1s are a huge topic of debate right now, and recently Chris Williamson and Tom Segura spoke about it on the Modern Wisdom podcast. They spoke about whether or not they're cheating, who should or should not be taking it, and I want to analyze what they said in this clip so we can have a more nuanced discussion around the truth of GLP-1s.
People who were fat had a problem with Ozempic because it was sort of denying their right to exist, and it was this, But then there was a bunch of people that were in shape that had a problem with it too, because it gave people who didn't need to use as much hard work and willpower an easier route to being in shape. I'm aware that losing fat isn't being in shape because there's muscle tone and all the rest of the stuff. But still, like, you would look at somebody that is half the size, that's 150 as opposed to 300, and you go, yeah, they're more in shape, at least with clothes on.
Yeah.
And everybody is threatened in one form or another by shortcuts.
Yeah.
Everybody is.
Yeah.
Because the reason that you look at someone who's in shape and you go, wow, that's good. I feel some sort of sense of like warmth and trustworthiness. It's because it's a reliable signal of what they've done to have to get there.
Exactly.
Whereas now you just think, hey, are you hardworking and consistent, or have you got a prescription for Ozempic?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is a thing that people do, and it's like, especially you see somebody who has never done anything before, and then they drop weight, and then they go, you kind of look at them like, oh, you did the cheat code, and then you kind of dismiss them as a person.
There's a lot to unpack in that clip, and I want to talk about several things. But before I do, I just want to let you know, I've never met Chris Williamson. Seems like a wonderful guy, and I really enjoy his podcast. I have met Tom Segura, legitimately one of the nicest, most kind, genuine individuals I've ever met in my entire life. He's treated me unbelievably well, and I know people who work for him who absolutely love him. So I want to be clear, I'm not speaking poorly of either of these men. I just want to discuss the nuance about what was discussed in this one clip. With that out of the way, I want to start with this line from Chris Williamson.
Whereas now you just think, hey, are you hardworking and consistent, or have you got a prescription for Ozempic?
Yeah.
This is what's called a false dichotomy, making it appear as though either you are hardworking and consistent, or you take Ozempic. Unfortunately, the way that Chris framed this is not only disingenuous, but it actually fuels a tremendous amount of misinformation towards a drug that could legitimately help people improve their quality of life. Now, there's no question, not everybody who struggles with their weight should be taking Ozempic or GLP-1s, and I'm going to discuss, so you understand more, the science of GLP-1s, what they are, who should be taking them, who shouldn't be taking them, and why they actually can be so beneficial for some people. But to blanketly say that you either are a hard worker and consistent or you take Ozempic, that's just flat out wrong. So just to give you some background as to how something like Ozempic or GLP-1s work, GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1, and this is something that is naturally made in your body. Keep in mind, we have other things that are naturally made in our body as well. For example, insulin is something that is naturally made in your body, but some people either don't naturally produce insulin, like type 1 diabetics, and or some people's body doesn't respond to the insulin that is produced in the same way. Now, if someone isn't producing insulin on their own and or if they're insulin resistant, often they will have to inject insulin into their body so that their body responds properly and so they can live healthily. This is actually very similar to how GLP-1s work. Some people produce sufficient amounts of GLP-1 and their body recognizes it and is very GLP-1 sensitive. But other people don't produce enough GLP-1 and or their body doesn't recognize it very well. And generally speaking, people who produce enough GLP-1 and they're very GLP-1 sensitive, their hunger works more or less normally. They're not starving all the time. They get full relatively easily. Yes, they'll get hungry, but it's rarely something that is overwhelming. On the other hand, people who don't produce enough GLP-1 and or they're more GLP-1 resistant, their hunger is significantly worse than the vast majority of people. Think about it like this. Let's say you have two cars, okay? And yes, I'm gonna use a car analogy. I know they're overdone, but stick with me. This one actually does make sense. If you have two cars and one of them works totally fine, no issues whatsoever, but the other car has a leaky gas tank, and you decide you want to drive both. When you're driving the car with no issues whatsoever, you're not really worried. You're driving around town, no problems. You're not thinking about anything because the car works great. But during the times that you want to drive the car with a leaky gas tank, you're probably going to be checking the fuel gauge pretty frequently. You're probably going to be worried that it's going to run out more frequently. You're going to have to make more stops along the way to fill it up because it continues to leak. The car with the leaky gas tank is similar to the person who is GLP-1 resistant and or not producing enough GLP-1s. They're going to have to fill up more frequently and they're gonna be thinking about food way more frequently than the person who doesn't have the leaky gas tank. This is a good segue into what Tom said in the podcast.
Especially you see somebody who has never done anything before, and then they drop weight, and then they go, yeah, you kind of look at them like, oh, you did the cheat code, and then you kind of dismiss them as a person. You just go like, oh, you're a shortcut person.
So this is, I think, the most pervasive issue with the discussion around GLP-1s. For some reason, people think it's cheating. People think that because it's offering people help, they equate it with cheating, which I'll start by saying this: unless you're in a competition, this isn't cheating. Like, you're doing it for your life, ideally for your health, for your longevity, for you and for your family and for your community. There's no cheating here, right? Like, even if someone takes steroids, for example, and they're just a regular individual and they're not competing in a sport in which it's banned, it's not cheating. It's not a competition. This is just life. The idea that it's cheating is wrong, point blank. But then we can move into similar things. So I used the example of how insulin and people who are insulin resistant or may not be producing insulin are injecting it because that's what their body needs. And GLP-1s are similar. People who are GLP-1 resistant or not producing enough, they will inject it because that's what their body needs. No one would look at a diabetic and say, oh, you're cheating because you're injecting insulin. So why are we looking at people who are injecting GLP-1s as cheaters? Because that's actually what they need in order to be healthier. Another way to think about it, and this is something that I think about a lot, I've been in the fitness industry for almost 20 years. For some reason, there's a real stigma around people who have weight to lose, right? And we can even look at other prescriptions for other issues. For example, look at someone who has ADD, ADHD, and they're prescribed Adderall. If someone gets that prescription for Adderall so they can be more productive, so they can be more focused, I've never heard in my entire life someone say, oh, you're cheating using Adderall, even though that's a prescription. And there are even people who will go to a doctor, even if they don't have ADD, they don't have ADHD. There are ways to game the system so you can get Adderall so you can be more productive. I've never heard anyone say that that person is cheating so they can be more productive. But for some reason, when it's with weight loss, all of a sudden, now it's cheating. Now it's an issue. We can even look at the drink that's on the table in this clip. It's Chris and James Smith's drink, Newtonic, which, by the way, is fantastic. They've sent me some. I love it. I'm not paid to say it. It's a great drink. It's not a prescription drink, but this is a drink that you take that is supposed to help you focus more and to help you improve your productivity. No one is saying you're cheating because you're taking this stuff. You're just taking something, using it as a tool to help you achieve your goal. Personally, I don't think it is helpful or fair to say that something like this is cheating when, number one, it's not a competition, and number two is, in any other circumstance, someone is prescribed something, you would never say it's cheating. So why are we saying it's cheating here, and why would that make you look at that person differently? Now, I do want to circle back to the concept around either you work hard or you take Ozempic and GLP-1s, because this is the other really pervasive issue. And for some reason, people think that if you take a GLP-1, that all of a sudden means you don't have to work hard. Really what it does is it often levels the playing field. It allows people to get more full as they would normally if their GLP-1s were in a normal level and their body regulated them properly. So that's number one. Number two is, and one of the main arguments against GLP-1s is people saying, well, you lose a lot of muscle mass, there are many health issues that come with it. People who really need it are not and should not be taking it lightly, because it is a very serious decision to make between the individual and their doctor. And there are real potential health risks that can come from it, especially if you abuse it. One of the major discussions that are pushback against GLP-1s is that it can absolutely lead to muscle loss if you aren't lifting weights properly. It can absolutely lead to muscle loss, if you're not eating enough protein. Clearly, you still need to pay attention to your nutrition. You still need to work out very consistently and work hard in order to get the best results. But just because someone is losing weight on a GLP-1 doesn't mean that they're not working hard. It doesn't mean they don't have to be consistent. It might even mean they need to be even more consistent and work even harder to get their protein in and to make sure they're lifting enough, because without that, maybe their energy is down. There are other things that come into play outside of simply you're just taking this injection so everything is easier. That's not how it works. Now, I will say, I do think too many people are taking GLP-1s in the same way I think too many people are taking Adderall. I think a lot of doctors are out prescribing Adderall like it's fucking candy, and I think a lot of doctors are out prescribing GLP-1s like it's candy. And I think there are many systemic issues that are leading to that. I don't think that people should be taking GLP-1s if they don't need it, and I think fewer people need it than we realize. But the main reasons why someone would need or really benefit from a GLP-1 are if they have a lot of extra weight to lose, like a lot of extra weight, and or if they have severe food noise. I have 2 videos on GLP-1s that are probably gonna be very helpful for you if you wanna dive deeper. One, GLP-1s explained like you're 5, and another one explaining food noise and what that actually means and how to overcome it. We'll link both of them in the description. But if someone has a lot of extra weight to lose and or they have severe food noise, GLP-1s can be an incredible tool to use to improve your health. The other thing I want to discuss here is, before we end the video, Tom had said something around seeing someone differently because they're choosing to use this. And again, I love Tom. I actually messaged Tom before I filmed this video, letting him know I was going to make it and just saying how much I admire him and appreciate him. He's truly a wonderful guy. What I want to discuss here is this shouldn't be changing how you see an individual if they choose to use this, because this is only, number one decision in their life that is between them and their doctor. But also, let's just say, for example, let's conjure a situation in which someone decides, I'm not going to use this. They're a strong candidate for it. They could be using it. It could really benefit them, but they don't use it. And then they lose a lot of weight and they're really struggling and they're super consistent and they're working really hard, but they're chronically hungry. In this example, let's say they're a mother and they're focusing so much on their weight loss and trying so hard on their weight loss that their role as a mother gets put to the side. They aren't paying as much attention to their children. They aren't being as good of a mother as they could be. They aren't doing the things that would make them a better mother, a better wife, a better person overall, all in this pursuit of losing weight. Would you think more highly of that person because they're losing weight, but the other things in their life, the other more important things in their life are not being taken care of? And what I'm doing right now is I'm also presenting a false dichotomy. I very much understand that. I'm presenting either you lose weight or you are good in whatever your role is at home. I'm not saying that's the case. What I'm saying is, would you respect that person more if they decided not to take the drug, but then the other things fell off? Or what if they decided to take the drug and then that also allowed them to lose weight and get healthier and be a better mother and be a better person for their home, for their job, for their children, for their husband, for whoever? For me, especially around food noise, and if you want to understand more about food noise, watch the link in the description. When food is taking up every waking moment of your life, and you've got that leaky car, the leaky gas tank that you're constantly thinking about all the time, it's very difficult to actually give other people in your life, and including yourself, the attention that you deserve, because food is taking over every waking moment. It's not just about working harder. It's not just about being more consistent. It's literally in your mind all the time. Think about it like this. If you've got money issues and someone was just like, okay, we'll just make more and spend less, you'd be like, motherfucker, my salary isn't enough, my mortgage is too high, my rent is too high, food prices are too high, things that often you can't control, and someone just tells you, okay, we'll just work harder and spend less. It's like, motherfucker, I'm trying, but I'm also thinking about it all day, every day, because I've got real money issues. Same thing with people who struggle with food noise. They're thinking about it all the time, and just saying, well, just work harder and be more consistent doesn't help at all. And when you have an opportunity that science has been developed in such an unbelievable way that we can actually give the people who need it the tool to use a GLP-1 that can not only improve their health, but improve their entire life, I would say, I respect that a lot. And I equally respect people who decide, you know what, that's not for me. I'm not going to take that. I'm going to do it separately. My respect for a person doesn't change whether or not they use a GLP-1. That's just, that for me doesn't dictate how much respect I have for that person. I care much more about, are they kind? Are they caring? Are they giving? Are they genuine? Are they honest? These are the things, not the decisions they make between them and their doctor. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Again, all love to both Tom Segura and Chris Williamson. I'm huge fans of them both, and I know Tom personally, and I love that guy. If you don't follow Tom, please do. His comedy he's one of my all-time favorite comedians. I've seen him in person a number of times. Unbelievable. Please, no hate to either of them. Have a wonderful conversation in the comments if you'd like. Have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you soon.